I said earlier we are looking very much to per capita income as a sign, an indicator of wealth and income levels and diversification in an economy. It's a very important indicator for us, and like I said earlier, it hardwires into other assessments. There, South Africa, when you look at the development over the last 10 years, it sits actually at the very bottom of the threshold we have for the BB category. So any improvement we would want to see would have to come in through this as well, through economic growth and per capita income growth that would ultimately really tell us something is happening in terms of income growth, and hopefully, and I'll come to that as well, it would also tell us something is happening with regards to income distribution. Again, just quickly, the fabulous BRICS comparison. And there again, leave India aside, that's probably one of India's key weaknesses, very low per capita income, not unsurprisingly given the society in India and the development issues in India. But South Africa, certainly the green line, doesn't compare well at all with the likes of China, Russia and Brazil. All these countries would have significantly higher per capita income levels. Thinking back to our sort of like sequence of downgrades, one factor that kind of like in our committee discussions was always a factor that caused great disappointment. And that was the fact that year after year after year, we had to prune back, we had to scale back growth expectations. Whenever the medium-term budget policy statement would have come out, or the budget would have been tabled, there was always high hopes about growth picking up slowly again, and then as the year would progress, we would see that growth would have to be pruned back again. Again, signs of weakness in growth, which really, when you look at this credit story, it boils down to this weakness in growth that is really sort of the trigger for many of these developments we have had. And quite honestly, if we would have had growth by 1 or 2 clicks higher than what we would have had, I wouldn't be standing here giving you this credit story. It would be a very different credit story. So in many ways, it all comes back to the weak growth performance. The fiscal problems, the problems with job creation, the income distribution issues, it all comes back to the weakness in growth in some form or shape. It's interesting, I took that out of the IMF data mapper again, and this shows global, the world as such, in the kind of orangey line. The red is emerging markets and developing economies, and the green is South Africa. That's real GDP growth. It dates back well into the 80s, which is not very meaningful from a South African perspective. So look at more what has happened basically since the global financial crisis. Right about here where we have that deep drop in the recession because of GFC. South Africa, with the benefit of hindsight now, really has not recovered in a meaningful way since the global financial crisis. It's lagging behind the rest of the globe, it's lagging behind emerging market economies. Another way of looking at it is when you look at GDP per capita growth, which again for us is often a more meaningful indicator. And again, South Africa being the green line in the middle, the red line emerging markets, the orangey line the world. And again, you can see how South Africa, sort of following the global financial crisis again, had a massive drop and has little potential of improvement at this point. So these are certainly from an economic assessment, from an economic growth perspective, very important concerns we have. And last but not least, take all these concerns and then overlay it with the distributional issues we are facing in South Africa, with one of the highest Gini coefficients indicating very high income inequality, the unemployment issues. So you have quite a number of very important issues that cause even more problems in the context of disappointing, dismal growth in the South African economy. With this kind of Gini coefficient, when you look at research, even if growth picks up, it will be more difficult to use a higher growth to engineer, to have it result in a better distribution. It would be much easier if the Gini coefficient would be not at this very high level. And so that's the message to the next policymakers. Bear that in mind. And in the end, when you look at it, when we had strong growth in between 2000 and 2007, perhaps, with the benefit of hindsight, again, what we know today is it did not lead to any improvement in terms of income distribution according to the Gini coefficient. And that's where high growth, if we are going to see higher growth in South Africa again, and I'm convinced we will, the challenge is make it more equitable, more inclusive, that something happens around these indicators.